What's going on, everybody? This is Rex Pinson, your #1 psychology informant, and today I'm going to be explaining the YERKES Dodson Law. So, the YERKES Dodson Law, it's really cool and it's something that really stuck out to me and made quick sense. So let's try and make this make sense for you guys. So the YERKES Dodson Law states that it's a psychological principle that performance increases with psychological or mental arousal, but only to a certain point. Meaning, if you are motivated and you feel a little bit of stress because you got to get a project done or you have to do some homework or something like that, that little bit of stress is almost like a fuel. It will motivate you to get that work done. Now, when the arousal levels become too high, performance actually decreases. So when you over-stress yourself and you try and compensate for all these things, that project that you want to get done, actually, if you do too much, you're going to underperform and it's going to stress you out. So in psychology, it's often represented as a bell-shaped graph, as you can see here. And I'll bring you guys in a little closer. So, these two lines here, that will represent optimal performance. O, right? So we can put low and we can put high here. So H for high, L for low, and optimal for O, okay? So basically, here's the point that we would be sitting at if we weren't stressed out at all, right here. Bang. Now, although not being stressed out is nice, you're not going to get the same work done and the same motivation. Basically, when we sit here, we feel better, but our performance is hindered. Now, at a high level, if we overstress ourselves, the same thing is happening. We're not going to perform. We're going to get back to this under optimal level. With too much levels of stress, or not enough levels of stress, we actually underperform. Now, right here in the middle, this is when we're stressing about homework, maybe we're stressing about a sports meet or something like that, but we're not overwhelming ourselves. This would allow us to complete the optimal level of work. So, for example, you would apply this law to performance settings, as well as work, sports, or just having an event that you might need to get to. So, for example, a moderate amount of stress would be ideal for a low-risk, low-priority task. But excessive stress would not be ideal for an excessive task. So, let's look at it this way. If you were in high school and you were on the wrestling team, and you had to balance cutting weight, early practices, and getting all your homework done and schoolwork done all on the same day, and then you had a match that night, you would have a bad match. So here's our wrestler, and he's dealing with, he's got school here, he's got to deal with cutting weight here, and he's got practice. So our wrestler's got 3 things that are occupying his mind. Now when he goes out to wrestle his opponent, he's probably gonna have a bad match. He's overstressed and he's overstimulated, and that's not what you're looking for. Now if we take a wrestler, here's another one, and this kid's not worrying about school because he's not doing his schoolwork. He's not stressing about that. So, I mean, he doesn't really even need to be thinking, right? We can just have him chill. He doesn't worry about getting to practice early. He doesn't worry about cutting weight. But when he goes out to wrestle his match, there is no match because he didn't perform at all. He didn't earn a match. He didn't practice hard. He didn't cut his weight, so he's not making weight. He was under stressed, which means he was not at his optimal level. Give you guys some background information. So the law was originally developed in 1908 by Robert Yerkes and John Dodson. Basically, they were able to develop this theory on 12 dancing mice, and there was a black box that the mice were living with, and if they went into this black box, they would receive a shock. And these type of experiments can give an inside look on the complexity of optimal arousal levels, and it allowed them to develop this theory, YERKES Dodson Law. And there are levels of arousal, and basically it starts with excitement, anticipation, stress, aggression, apprehension, and nervousness. Once you get too deep, your performance is impacted. So, the way we have to remember this law is it's not deep in, it's deep out or deep in. So if you're too deep here or you're too deep here, on this little line, if you can see it, you're gonna underperform, basically. If you can keep yourself right here, just the right amount of excitement, anticipation, and stress, you'll perform the best. When you start getting too hairy, you underperform a little bit. And I would say personally, like, the reason I use the wrestling example is because I was a high school wrestler, and I really feel like this law is a perfect example of it. And you will see wrestlers completely underperform one morning because they had to cut weight all week, they had too much going on in school, and now they have to get up at 5 a.m. for a Saturday wrestling meet. It's too much stress and you underperform. And I've seen that happen to guys where I'm like, that's a really great wrestler, and it's crazy to see him underperform this week. Now that I'm older and I'm in psychology class and I've learned this theory, I've started to really understand it makes perfect sense. You know, if you got too much going on up here, you can't produce, right? So the wrestlers that were able, and this was a lot more common with younger wrestlers who hadn't learned to manage their stress and cutting weight and practice and schoolwork. And as I got older and I realized, you know, I'm not gonna eat and get myself super fat before the season. I'm gonna manage my weight the whole year. I wanna go into this season and I wanna just feel good. I don't wanna have to cut 10, 15 pounds. So you start to manage that, you know, you start to realize what that does to your mental. Same thing with practice, you know, when you get up late and you rush to practice and then you show to practice, you're stressed. You're not performing good. When you wake up a little bit earlier on your own time, you get to practice, you have good practice, you get in there good, the coaches like that, you leave early almost, and that's better. Same thing with schoolwork. I know a lot of wrestlers, you know, we're stressed out. We got practice after school. By the time we get home at 6 o'clock, we're tired, we want to relax. And a lot of kids would procrastinate doing their homework. The problem with that is, by the end of the semester, if you got down grades, you're not wrestling. And on top of it, even if it gets to the end of the semester and you're like, all right, I'm going to buckle down and get all this work done, what's going to happen? You're going to be overstressed. It's going to be a lot that you're thinking about. You're not going to be thinking about wrestling and prioritizing that. You're going to be overstressed. You're going to have too much going on. And by the end of the season, you're going to have a weak season. So, always remember, guys, when we're thinking about the YERKES Dodson Law, it's represented by a bell. And we want to stay right in the middle at that optimal level. I think it's really beautiful, guys, and I think it's a really cool theory, and I was really grateful and lucky to be able to make a video on it. So thank you guys so much, and it's been real.